Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacqueline. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacqueline at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. My name is Justin Mirigliani. I'm an expert presenter here on Talking Heads. That's our platform. We have experts from around the world in different disciplines come and they are share their wisdom with us. And tonight is episode number 1. So I'm really excited about that. So for those who have seen me before, I do a show called Entrepreneur and So Much More. We do that the first Monday of every month. Dr. Jacqueline and I do that one together, and we have some great guests. We've had Rolf Bernurschke on. We had Ken Dunnick come on one of the shows, 2 guys who played in the NFL. So we've had some really great people who have done well in sports and in business. It's very, very exciting. And we also do take steps to kick IBD. Both Dr. Jacqueline and I have suffered with inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, or 2 of those. And we do that twice a month. And it's exciting to be able to do that. This platform is amazing. You can learn so many different things here, whether you're going to learn about computers like we will today, or you're going to learn about health, or you're going to learn about how to do your taxes, how to do your payroll. There's so much here on this station. And remember, it's USA Global TV and Radio. And you can find us on YouTube even after the shows have aired. So, and we're on the radio dial too, which is a new thing. So let's get into it. I started training computers back 23 years ago, and it wasn't something that was easy for me at first. It really was a struggle to get up and running and feel good about how I felt with the computer and with different programs. And as my career has gone on, I've become an expert in many different areas: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Project, Visio, all these different applications. And I really believe that if I can become an expert in these areas, in these programs, you can too. It really is not unique to me. It's a matter of wanting to learn it, and it's a matter of practice. And that really is it. And I think that's for most things that we do in our lives. Think about when you learned how to ride a bike, right? You had to get on the bike, you had to ride and pedal and fall a few times, but you got up and you started to go on. And that's what really I think everything is, whether you're a weightlifter and you want to get stronger, so that's one of my hobbies, or if you're an athlete, you want to be a better soccer player, you have to go out and kick the ball, right? So let's get started with pivot tables. So pivot tables have, I want to say, a reputation that precedes them. People are very concerned about them. When I go into a classroom, many times people will say to me, Justin, is there anything else that I can learn in place of pivot tables? I've heard they're really tough. They're a lot to learn. I'm not going to be able to get it. Is there something else that you could show me that's easier? And really, the short answer is no, there really isn't. Pivot tables are there as a data analysis tool to take large amounts of data that you and I can never, ever decipher in our heads and actually see it with the information there. So I'm going to share my screen for you. And I'm going to show you exactly what this is. Now, I'm excited to be able to do this because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to share my whole screen. I thought I was going to have to do this with just a PowerPoint presentation, but it turns out that I am able to share my screen with you. So here is an Excel spreadsheet. Many of you have seen these before. And what we're looking at here is what we would call a data dump. Look how many rows of data we have here. We have up to 300 rows, as you see there. Now, in your mind, as you're looking at this, ask yourself these questions, and I'll give you a few seconds to do that in your head. If you looked at this data and you asked yourself, what region was our top selling region? Would you be able to answer that question? And if I asked you, what department is our highest selling department? Would you be able to answer that question? Or if I asked you, what rep is our top selling rep? Would you be able to answer that question? And the answer is no. No, I can't look at this huge amount of data, 300 rows. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, but Excel, you have up to 1,048,576 rows available to you. Now, that doesn't mean that anybody uses that many. I've only seen it twice. But you might have 300 rows, you might have 3,000 rows, you may have 300,000 rows. I don't know what your data would be, and you might not even know either. But that's how big it could be. So in this, again, data dump, I want to know different things about this business. How are we doing within each region? How are we doing within each department? Who's our top selling rep? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this range, that's what we call these Excel files, spreadsheets, but this whole thing is a range. What we're going to do is turn this range into a table first before we make it a pivot table. So up in the ribbon at the top of the screen, I go to insert, and in the tables group, I'll click table. It's smart enough to select all of the columns and all of the rows because there's no breaks. All of the columns and all of the rows are consecutive. So it's selected from A1, which is the first cell, to K, as in kite, 300. And it's also smart enough to know that my table has headers. So I'm going to click OK, and it created a table. Now, this is not a pivot table. This is a table. It is in your best interest, and the amount of time that we have today, I'm not going to be able to explain all of it, but it's in your best interest, if you're going to create pivot tables, to first change your ranges into regular tables. That's really an advantage. So I'm going to click in the table somewhere. A1 is fine. It really does not matter what cell, but I'm going to go back to insert. I'm going to go to pivot table in the insert tab, in the tables group, pivot table, and it selected the whole table. Okay, now I didn't name it, so the name of the table is table 1, and that's fine. You don't really have to name it if you don't want to. And it's going to put this data, this pivot table, on a new worksheet. So I'm just going to click OK, and there it is. Okay, now you're looking at it and probably thinking, what in the world is this? It just looks like a regular spreadsheet with a little table in it, but there's so much more to it, and it's going to come alive in just a few seconds and just a couple of clicks, which is amazing. So if you look up in my ribbon, here's the ribbon across the top of the screen, we have extra tabs: pivot table analyze and pivot table design. These are called contextual tabs. Contextual tabs are tabs that come up in the ribbon based on the context of an item that you've clicked on that needs extra tools. So for instance, if you were in Microsoft Word and you were clicked in a header, you would get header and footer tools up in the ribbon. If you were in PowerPoint and you were clicked on a picture, up in the ribbon, you would see picture tools format. Okay. So since we're in a pivot table, I have pivot table analyze and design. Now, the other thing that you see here to the right is the pivot table field list. What it did is it took all of the headings from this table, date, region, department, took all of those headings, and it said, okay, those are your fields. So, ladies and gentlemen, all it is at this point is for me to decide what fields I want in the pivot table and which fields I don't want. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click on department. And you'll notice down at the bottom right, we have all these little squares here. It's got a report filter and columns. By default, department went to rows. Now, there's a reason for that. When you check off a field, Excel asks itself, is this numeric or is this non-numeric? In other words, is it numbers or is it text? And in this case, department is not numeric, it's text. So it automatically put it in the rows section. Now I'm going to do it again. I'm going to click on region, and we're going to get the same thing. Region will go to rows because, again, it's non-numeric. Lastly, I'm going to click on total. Total is numeric. It's numbers, and Excel realizes that, and it's artificial intelligence. And it put that into the values area. If you look in the bottom right-hand side of my screen, you'll see values, sum of total. So it actually did what I was hoping it was going to do. It added those fields. So what I'm going to do at this point is do the pivoting part of this, where I'm going to grab the department. I'm sorry, I'm going to grab region instead. I think that'll be a better move. I'm going to grab region and drag it right to the columns area and drop it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a pivot table. The one thing that you're not going to like right off the bat are, yeah, the numbers don't look great. This is sales data, so it should be currency. But watch how quick and easy it is to fix that. It's a right click on any cell with a number. Doesn't matter what cell, any cell with a number in it. And I'm going to go to number format, and I'm going to make it currency, and it will do the whole table. Just that quick and easy. So remember the questions that I asked you back here on the sales data sheet. In the sales data sheet, I asked you, what region was our top selling region? And I know in your mind you thought, I don't know. I can't tell. I can't look at this and tell you. And I also asked you, what department was our top selling department? And again, in your mind, you thought to yourself, gee, I don't know. There's 300 rows of this. I can't even begin to tell you. But if I go back to the sheet where the pivot table is, which is to the left of sales data, look at what I know now. So I run this business. I need to know what region I'm doing the best in and what region I'm not. So I look down at the bottom in the grand totals, and it looks to me like the Northwest, or I'm sorry, the Midwest rather. The Midwest is our top selling region, $35,162.21. And if I look through some more, I know some other things. I know that the Southwest was the lowest selling region at $30,553.60. Those were questions I could never have answered on that other spreadsheet, the data dump. And then the same thing here. Look at this. Athletics, clothing, electronics, and toys. These are all of the different departments that we have. So if a client said to me, Justin, I need to know what department am I making my most money in? That's going to be electronics at $43,230.40. And where am I not making the most money? What's the lowest selling department? Well, looks like athletics at $40,839.01. That's it. That's what a pivot table is. And a lot of times people get so hung up on, this is going to be too difficult. I'm not going to be able to get this. I heard that pivot tables are so hard. They're not as hard as you think. And that's the same with many of these applications and many of the features within the applications. There's going to be a lot of time, or there are going to be a lot of times where people allow the doubt to creep in. I'm not a computer person. I hear that a lot. You can be a computer person. I was not a computer person. And then 23 years later, I'm a computer expert training people around the world. You don't need to get to that level, perhaps, but you can learn things that will make your job easier and also make you more attractive to move up in your company or to find another position at another company. These are important things. So one of the things I'll show you too is you might say, well, I'd like to sort this, and see the sorting, see the order change. So I'm going to click on the grand total, and I'm going to go up to the data tab of the ribbon, and I'm going to sort Z to A, so high to low. So now electronics is at the top because it is the top selling region. And then I'm going to click on the grand total for the regions, and I'm going to sort again, Z to A. I'll do a horizontal sort. And now we're in order. Midwest is top seller. West is number 2. Southeast is 3. Northeast is 4. Southwest is last. So that is what a pivot table is. It allows you to take large amounts of data and make heads or tails of it. Now, you might say to me, Justin, didn't you ask another question earlier? Back in sales data, I asked you about the reps. How did our reps do? Well, we could run another pivot table if we want to, or we could add to the existing pivot table. I'm going to do another one for the sake of repetition. I'm a big believer in repetition. I think that that's the only way that things become easy for us is to make them automatic. And I often think about the movie The Karate Kid when you think about how Mr. Miyagi taught Daniel all those karate moves, sand the floor, right? Wax on, wax off, paint the house. Those were motions that had to be ingrained in him. He couldn't think about that. When he got into the ring to fight in his karate tournament, he couldn't think to himself, gee, I have to lift my arm this certain way. It had to become automatic. And that's the same thing with everything else, right? So we're going to do it again. I'm going to go to insert. I'm going to create a pivot table. All right, selects the whole thing. It says it's going to put it on a new sheet, which is great. I'm going to click OK. Okay. We have another pivot table. Now, this time I'm going to do virtually the same thing, except what I'm going to do now is go to uh, region and reps. Remember, both of them are non-numeric fields, so they went right to rows. Region and reps is in rows because it's non-numeric. I'm going to put a check mark in total. That is numeric, so it goes to values. Really the same way the last pivot table worked. Now, again, I'm going to grab region, and I'm going to drag it up into the columns area, and we have, again, a pivot table. Remember, these numbers are terrible, right? You would never want to hand this into a client. I would not want to hand it into a client looking like this because the odds are that they would never hire me again. So I'm going to right-click on any number. I'm going to go to number format, and here's currency. 2 decimal places is fine. I'll click OK. And now we already know what region our top selling region was, Midwest. We learned that on the last pivot table. But now I want to direct you to over here for the people, Alex, Amy, Laura, Rebecca, and Vince, who's our top selling rep. Well, now I know it's Vince at $37,155.59. That's all. And I'll sort them in order Z to A. Vince is at the top at 37,000 plus. Alex at the bottom at 30,000 plus. So what we did there was we took the same data and made it a different pivot table looking for different information. Now, that's not the end of pivot tables. In fact, it goes well beyond what I'm going to cover today. But I want to show you something pretty neat. So I'm going to go to the original pivot table. If you look at this one, this is the one where we had the departments and we had the regions. There's no rule that says you can only have one column in one row. You can make it more complicated if necessary. So what I'm going to do now is put a check mark in reps and take a look at the pivot table now. It's a little more complicated, but it's telling me a lot more information. So if you look to the bottom right, down at the bottom, remember the rows and columns and values? Well, the 2 rows that I have are department and reps. And the column is the region still. So look, all the columns, Midwest, West, Southeast, okay? But over here, down where the rows are, I have 2. I have department and reps because they're non-numeric. The order in which they appear matters. If you notice, department is first, and that means that department is primary. Reps are second, obviously meaning they're secondary. And if you look in column A of the pivot table, you do have that showing here. The departments are there: electronics, toys, clothing, athletics. Indented below those departments, now you see the people: Alex, Amy, Laura, Rebecca, and Vince. Now, can you change that? Absolutely. If I want to grab reps and drag it and make it first on top of rows, I could sure do that. And now if you look, it's slightly different. Same data, just a different way to look at it. Here's Alex, Amy, Laura, Rebecca, and Vince indented below the people now. The reps are the departments: toys, electronics, athletics, and clothing. It's the same data, just a different way to look at the data. These are invaluable tools that I've used many, many times, not only for myself and my own business, but for clients who have tremendous amounts of data. And they say, Justin, I need to make heads or tails of this. I can't just have these numbers on a spreadsheet. They got to mean something. And that's what this does. So if we look at this, now, if a client said to me, Justin, how did Alex do in the Northeast for clothing? Well, here's Alex, here's the Northeast, and here's clothing. She did $1,693.90. That's all this is. And it's funny. I joke around with my classes a lot. I've been teaching classes again for 23 years. I teach all over the world. I teach not only in the U.S. now, but because of things like StreamYard and Zoom and Teams, I'm able to teach people all over the world now. It's exciting. And what a lot of people will say to me is, these are so much easier than what I thought they would be. And I think you're going to find that with a lot of these computer functions. Couple things I'll add in is I know we have just a few more minutes to go. I might want to put my subtotals at the bottom. So right now I'll go up to pivot table analyze, and I'm sorry, pivot table design rather. And what I want to do is put my subtotals at the bottom of the group instead of at the top. So I'll go to subtotals and I'll choose show all subtotals at bottom of group. So here's Alex's total, here's Amy's total, here's Laura's total. Now you want to see something really cool? A lot of people, I've had people who work with pivot tables for a decade who said they had no idea that you could do this next trick. So you're going to learn something pretty neat. I'm going to right click on the row label. I'm sorry, on the name Alex. I'm going to go to field settings. And in the subtotals, instead of automatic, which are sums, I'm going to go to custom. And I'm going to show a sum, an average, a max, and a min. And I'll click OK. And now I have all of this information for Alex. I have her sum of her sales in each region. I know her average in each region. I know her highest sales in each region, her max, and I know her lowest sales in each region, which is her minimum. And I have the same for Amy and Laura, Rebecca, and Vince. Just a couple of clicks, and you have all this information. And again, you got to go back to sales data to understand why this is so important. This data dump of 300 rows, it's virtually impossible. In fact, it is impossible to know the information that I just showed you over here. Couldn't be done. Couldn't be done. And that's the beauty of a pivot table. It takes large amounts of data and allows us to make heads or tails of what it is. If you run a business, that's an important thing. I'm going to build another one for you. This time I'm going to work with the date. So I want to know how I'm doing over time. So I'll go to insert. I build another pivot table. It's going to put it on a new sheet. I'm fine with that. I'll click OK. And this time I'll put in date, region, and I'll do total. So now what I have, if I put region in the columns here, I have a breakdown by region per month. And I'll right click on any number, go to number format, make it currency. And you'll see the numbers are in currency now, in dollars. And it's broken down. It groups it automatically by month. So I know my sales in January in the Midwest, in February in the Midwest, March, all the way through all of the regions. And what's cool about this is I can right click on it and even group it more and say I want to group it by quarter as well. So now I can look at the quarters. I'll collapse them for you so you can see them better. So I'll collapse all the quarters. Quarter 2, I'll collapse it. Quarter 3, I'll collapse it. Quarter 4. And now I have a breakdown of the sales by quarter. Sales day to day matter, but that doesn't tell you the story. I could have one great day of sales and then 3 terrible days of sales, right? So I want to know over time, how am I doing? Am I doing well in each quarter? Am I not doing so well in each quarter? I need to know that. But I also might want to break it down to by month. So if I expand the quarter, I could see January, February, and March. So now I can look at the actual months in the first quarter and make heads or tails about what this is all about. And I can do that for every one of these quarters, open them up. Just another way that pivot tables can show you really, really important information. And this is just scratching the surface. We could be together for hours and hours and hours and work on different pivot tables that do a lot of incredible things. But I think my goal today, and I want to say I think, I know that my goal today is to show you that intimidation should be out the window. You can learn anything on these computers, even if you have been in the workforce for 40 years, 45 years, and you think, well, I have never done all this stuff before, so it's too late for me to learn it. It's not true. My grandfather, who passed away in 2018, was 93 years old, and he worked in Excel. He did work with email. He did all his online banking. So it's never too late. He started in his 80s, so it doesn't matter what age. If you're a young kid coming out of school, these are so important. These tools, because in the workforce, they're going to ask you if you know how to use Excel. Do you know how to use PowerPoint? Do you know how to use Word? Perhaps other programs like Microsoft Project or Access. So it's really important to be able to say yes and mean it. A lot of times I've heard of people, I was in HR for a while, and we would ask them, are you proficient in certain computer skills? And they would answer yes, but when they got the actual job to do, they couldn't do it. And of course, it led to them being let go. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to have to try to learn on the fly. And that's why my company, Just For You Training and Consulting, that's what we do. We train people one on one. We train people in groups at companies. I do a lot of classes for 12, 16 people at a time, all hands on, almost all of it remote, although I do still do some in class teaching. A couple other quick things before we end the show. And it goes so fast. It really is amazing how quickly a half an hour to 40 minutes goes. Um, what if you want to bring this to life a little bit? And what I'm talking about there is creating a chart for the data. I could do it in under 5 seconds. And you're going to say that's impossible. You can't do that in less than 5 seconds. Here we go. I go to Pivot Table Analyze. I click on Pivot Chart in the Tools group. I want a 3D clustered column chart. I click OK. It's done. That's it. That's all it takes. It's 3 clicks. And now I have the data in a nice chart. Again, skills that really don't take much, and people are shocked. And I almost feel silly sometimes when I say that I'm an expert in Excel, because anybody can be an expert in Excel. It takes practice, it takes learning, it takes somebody to show you what the tools are. I'm not special. I'm not just somebody who was a computer wizard. I learned it, and you can too. Couple other things I want to touch on before we end the session today, and this being my first Talking Head show, just such a treat to be able to do this, to be able to make connections with people like our viewers and like my teammates, Dr. Jacqueline and Al and all the rest of the folks you see on here. What an amazing place this is. I'm going to go over to the internet now for you, and I'm going to show you my business cards. You heard that right. These are my business cards. They look like a website, and you can have multiple pages. Here's one page. Here's what we offer, and it will change. It'll show you information right on my business card. Now, I'm doing this on a computer because that's how I have to project this to you. But imagine you're at a business meeting and somebody asks you for your card. Instead of handing them a piece of paper that we've been using since, believe it or not, the 1700s, would it be nice to be able to say to them, my business card is electric, and can I text it to you? So when they hand you their business card and you have their number, you could text them your card, and look at what you can put on there. You can put your picture. You have actual moving video behind it, dynamic video behind your card. If you scroll down, for years, I was on QVC. I was the national and international expert on computers at QVC. And I put my video reel on there. There's a button for them to call you, email you, text you. There's a button to download you right to their contacts. How many times have you gone into a business meeting and handed out your cards and hoped that the person who received your card was going to literally go home and put that into their phone. What do you think the odds are? I can tell you what the odds are. The odds are very slim, and here's what the numbers tell us. 90% of business cards, paper business cards that we hand out, are thrown away within 7 days. It's actually 89%. 89% of paper business cards are thrown away in 7 days or less. When you hand out a business paper card, the odds are huge that that person on the other end is not going to put it into their contacts. With my Go cards, you have them tap download contact. They click the save button. You are now in their contacts. I was at a business event a month ago. I received 60 paper cards. 60. You want to know how many I actually put in the computer? 0. It's not that I didn't want to. It's not that I didn't want to stay connected to people. I don't have the time to type 60 business cards into an Excel spreadsheet. I don't have the time to try to take pictures of them and then file them in different places. It just doesn't work. We're in a different world now. Now, I loved it so much that I became a reseller for my Go cards. Got My Go cards is the name of the company. I have one for my charity as well. And if you take a look, I have the link to there. This is my charity, Checkmates Charitable Association. And we do NHL celebrity games to raise money for those with Crohn's disease, those with ulcerative colitis, and other bowel diseases, along with those with an ostomy. I have a permanent ileostomy from a 12-year battle with ulcerative colitis. Again, this is a business card. I go to an event, I send this card to somebody, I just text it to them, and look at what they can do. They can see all this dynamic video, pictures, call me, email me, text me, just like the other card for my business, just for you. They could share by text, they could share by email with other people. So if they think that you're such a great contact that they want you to be in their colleagues' database and on their colleague's phone, they can actually share your card right here. Look at this. There's an About Us, another page. It's almost, in fact, it is another website that you can use right from your phone. Now, my suggestion to you is don't throw away business cards and go right to this. You use them in conjunction with this. So you can hand out a paper business card, but also hand this out as well. And when I say hand it out, I literally mean have the person ask them for their card and then text this to them. In business, whether it's a charity or an actual money-making business, the difference between success and failure oftentimes is the memory of who you are. If people remember you, they will work with you. If people cannot remember you, you're never going to get that call. Nobody's going to say, hey, I think I might remember. They need to know who you are. And what better way to do that than with an electronic business card where you have video, you have audio, and you have really everything at your disposal. So if you have any interest in getting involved with these electronic business cards, please contact me. I'm going to show you my contact information. Let me just pull up a quick PowerPoint presentation here where I have put it originally. So my information is right here. My name, again, is Justin Mirigliani. My website is www.justforutc.com. Contact us if you want a class for your department, for your business, a personal class. If you'd like to do that, we do those sometimes on weekends to make it easier for people. You can reach me at my email address is justin@justforutc.com. And my cell phone number is 610-324-5545. So please reach out. Before I end the show today, I just want to remind you of what you are getting with this TV and radio station. This is a place, if you said to me, Justin, what is USA Global TV? What I would say to you is USA Global TV and radio is about growth. That's the one word that comes to mind every time is growth. We have so many different shows, so many different talking heads experts, so many different people from all walks of life as our guests, and they bring incredible amounts of information to you. We're not about politics. We're not about trying to find scoops on stories. We're about growth. And that's what Dr. Jacqueline has always been about. So I really ask you to continue to watch us, subscribe to us, and just see what a difference we can make in your life. I want to thank you so much. So that will end my first episode, and I'm really excited to do that. Just to give you an idea of where I'm going to be next. Once a month, every first Monday of the month, we do Entrepreneur and So Much More, where we talk about entrepreneurial spirit and how to be an entrepreneur. And we have great guests who talk about their own journey as entrepreneurs. We're going to have one next week. We canceled today's due to a guest who couldn't make it. We're going to move it over to next week, May 9th, 5 p.m. So it's usually the first Monday, but next week it'll be the second Monday of the month at 5 p.m. And then twice a month, Dr. Jacqueline and I do Take Steps to Kick IBD. Great show where we talk about trying to find cures and trying to find ways to make the lives of people with inflammatory bowel disease better. We do that uh, uh, twice a month. And the Talking Heads, my Talking Head show, we're going to be doing that once a month on every Monday after Entrepreneur and So Much More. And that's going to be about lessons like you learned today with pivot tables. We're going to talk about communication skills. We're going to talk about time management, project management, so many things that I want to share with you that I've been so lucky in my life to be able to have been on projects with so many smart people. And I've taken the amazing things that they've done, and I've tried to condense it to share with other people. The only thing that I'm worried about in my career, besides making a living and supporting my family, is to help other people grow, and that's what this station's all about, and that's why I'm here.